Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining in this ongoing season or ongoing series on the notes. And last Wednesday, we looked at the results of Rahu in the ninth. And today, we will be looking at Rahu in the 10th house and how does it behave. But then, before we go to the meat of the topic, kindly subscribe to the channel, like the content if you find it useful, and please share it with your friends and family if you think these videos could benefit them. So, the nodes Rahu and Ketu, we have been discussing their placement in the houses, and till now we have covered, Ketu in the ninth and Rahu in the ninth. So today we'll be looking at Rahu in the 10th. Okay, so if the head of the serpent, Rahu, of course, represents the head of the Kala Sarpa. So if the head of the serpent is in the 10th house, so the name of the serpent represented by Rahu in the 10th and Ketu in the 4th is known as Pataka or Ghataka. And this may be imagined of as a pot or a water jar containing something vital for life. And it's associated with skilled accomplishment, a tree that produces fruit without flowers, a negotiator of alliances, and also a unit of time. And another meaning of this name, Pataka, lies in the verb path, which means to fall, implying loss of social status. And although it can happen out of the blue, usually it is deserved for a reason, And why does this happen to the victim? Because such a victim could be too focused on career, fame, reputation, and pride. So as a result, the native is deprived of sukha, and sukha represents your emotional as well as material relationship with material things. And such a native can also experience a loss of face in the eyes of others, but also a personal shame for his or her loss. So for people having displacement, that is, there is often a focus on achieving happiness through career, fame, and reputation, either by augmenting or maintaining one's position in the society. And such a native may have a gift for governance and executive leadership, albeit sometimes with inflated authority. And driven by the urgency of his or her desire to get things done in time, such a native is likely to be impatient or capable of crashing barriers to achieve his or her ambitions. Okay. And these people usually face irregularities regarding their professional livelihood and can also suffer from reversals with respect to his or her social status, even his or her happiness. Okay. So, how does Rahu behave in the 10th house? Let's have a look at that. Generally, the 10th house is regarded as an upachaya. Okay. And in general, again, Rahu in an upachaya house like 3rd or the 6th or the 10th or the 11th is usually considered promising, but it is not beneficial. Okay. Because the 10th house is the house of karma, and the presence of an erratic malefic like Rahu with all its worldly and sensual desires is unlikely to bring any merit to the reputation of the native, who can easily succumb to its influence. Okay. And we know that Rahu represents desire and obsession, and Ketu denotes ambivalence and detachment. So with Rahu in the 10th and Ketu in the 4th, this can indicate a bias for command and control of others, social visibility and respect, prestigious offices and career, and limitless ambitions, sometimes at the cost of one's family connections, education, empathy for the masses, and as well as psychological stability. And the 10th house rules the knees. And because Rahu can represent deformities, this may provoke an issue with the knees, such as bow legs or knock knees. And there is a risk of breaks, tears, or other injuries to the knee. And if there are sufficient astrological afflictions to corroborate, this may also indicate surgery to repair the knee joint. Okay. And because Rahu represents things that are foreign or hybrid, so in the 10th house, it could also indicate a prosthetic knee. Okay. So Rahu also has the karakatva for the hands, okay, along with Mercury. So Rahu in the 10th can signify a person in whose public role the hands become prominent in some way. Okay. So the native may employ hand gestures to an inordinate degree, and because Rahu is a malefic, there could be a tendency for rude gestures. Okay. So such a native has a public persona that seems larger than life. And if we think of Rahu as a king cobra, In the 10th house, it suggests a person who rises up to full height, inflates his chest, fixes his potential prey with a focused stare, spits venom, and also has the potential to strike without any warning. Okay. And because Rahu is contrarian, such a native will favor change over the status quo, reflect a minority opinion rather than side with the majority, be immune to reasonable arguments, and move sideways or backwards when others are trying to move forward. Okay. And Rahu in the 10th can always manifest as a rebellious attitude in all things undertaken by the native. However, if the native is faced with dissent, he or she is unlikely to back down from any opposition, and rather will use resistance as a rationale to pass the trend, to press forward, or even, with greater fervor. And irregular Rahu at the 10th can suggest a person who does not adhere to normal protocols. And because Rahu is a Chaya Graha, it is invisible and operates from the shadows. So the native may pursue a hidden agenda. He is likely to act on intuition, seizing opportunities as they arise and striking without warning at objectives previously unannounced. Okay. Now, because Rahu reflects desire and fascination and obsession, such a native's natural disposition is to pursue with passion anything and everything that promises to enhance his power, reputation, status, or visibility. And it is in the it is in the nature of Rahu to cheat the system. So the native will use all expedient means to achieve his or her ambitions. And there is no need to pay whatever you owe, maybe to a bank or to a financial institution. So, Rahu thinks that there is no need to pay your dues or, wait in line until your turn comes along. So the Rahuvian type personality considers himself or herself very entitled to jump the line, to succeed by self-promotion in lieu of earned credentials. So in the name of revolution, there are no seniority rights, and the person who makes the most noise commands the most attention. And because Rahu is also a risk taker, in the 10th house, it can suggest a native who pursues his fascinations with obsessive zeal, like having intoxicants or erotic sexual partners, business relationships with foreigners, running with a rough crowd, foreign travel, fraud or borderline criminal activities. And unless a strong Saturn can stabilize the native's personality and enforces some moral responsibility, there is a danger that whatever position Rahu occupies, its mandate will become secondary to the native's need for ego fulfillment. Okay. So in other words, the native may use his or her high office status for grandstanding without actually fulfilling its duties. And if Saturn is weak in the birth chart, then failure to moderate the native's egoism will compound the scenario as I have described just now. Okay. And Rahu, which is very power hungry, will then act in a narcissistic manner. And, the native gratifying himself with while remaining oblivious to the legitimate needs of the culture, enterprise, or political organization he is supposed to serve. And in such cases, ethical considerations are discarded and the native takes whatever he wants under the guise of entitlement. Now, with Rahu in the 10th house, the native wants to acquire social status, high visibility and power. And although these people may not have leadership skills that qualify him for public office and social responsibility, such a native may settle for symbolic roles so long as they provide the visibility he or she wants. And in order to, affirm or confirm his superiority, he'll always establish himself in a hierarchy, climbing a pyramid organization to achieve an elite office. But ultimately, he seeks the position of command, governance, dignity, and respect. Ironically, such a native, will do anything to achieve even a bare minimum of that. So as a consequence, he or she is prone to autocratic and or dictatorial tendencies. Now, such a native, as I said, wants to be seen as the epitome of law and order, and Rahu's shadowy nature is such that he or she may achieve his ambitions through misrepresentation, subterfuge, and ricketry. So inflated expectations of entitlement may also be part and parcel of, of the executive privilege these people, want. And because Rahu exaggerates, the native can become overextended in his or her leadership authority, thinking that, he has greater power than he actually has. Okay. And further, the erratic and unpredictable nature of Rahu may reveal itself through unorthodox ways of directing others that violate established norms of ethics and governance. Okay. And Rahu is a rogue planet. So in the 10th house, it can give maximum visibility. And such a native is likely to have many of his or her misdeeds made public, via his or her own brash pronouncements, the disclosures of those around him, or being witnessed in public. And because Rahu represents taboos, such a person may succeed despite or because of breaking them. Okay. So the native can gain power without achieving respect. Such a native may be a living exponent of the principle there is no such thing as a bad publicity. Okay. So Rahu in the 10th may be considered as an outsider by the establishment. For example, there could be various labels coming your way, like black sheep, change agent, dark horse, gate crasher, iconoclast, renegade, shit, disturber, and taboo breaker, all suggesting both his, primary ambition, often with ulterior motives, as well as the combination of fascination and disgust with which the people witness his ascendancy. And because Rahu is an interloper or demon who does not deserve the privileges of the ruling class or the gods, he is desperate to mingle with people of prestige. Okay. So as a result, the native becomes an, inveterate name dropper, alluding to friendships with celebrities in hopes that some glamour will rub off on him. And the arts and entertainment fields, which typically embrace outsiders with talent, are fertile grounds for his or her social and professional activities. Okay. Now, because Rahu is associated with all things foreign, natives with Rahu in the 10th can be professionally involved with foreigners. For example, the diplomatic corps, immigration, import, export, foreign exchange, foreign trade, and international agencies of all kinds. And such a native may have a gift for governance and executive leadership, albeit with inflated authority. Okay. And driven by a desire to get things done in time, such a native is likely to be impatient, capable of crashing barriers to achieve his or her ambitions. And because Rahu is also a grabber, so the native may be employed in a profession where grasping things is part of the job. For example, baseball player, tool wielding, tradesmen, or even crop pickers. Now, Rahu signifies all manner of poisons and their antidotes. So in the 10th, it can indicate, beer brewers, alcohol distillers, liquor store managers, tobacco manufacturers, marijuana cultivators, and cocaine dealers. And higher up on the supply chain of poisons and antidotes, it also rules pharmacists, drug researchers, pharmaceutical executives, anesthesiologists, and oncologists. And all the, on the alternative health side, there are homeopaths, naturopaths, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, and Ayurvedans. Okay. But because Rahu rules the bones, so that its presence in the 10th house can indicate someone with a professional involvement in bone health. For example, an orthopedic surgeon. And because Rahu also rules illusion and the occult, so in the 10th, it can indicate a professional, magician, or a psychic, or a tarot card reader, or even an astrologer. Okay, so these are the professions that are given by Rahu in the 10th house. So that's it from me in this video. Thank you so much for watching. And should you have any query or consultation regarding your own chart or maybe the chart of others, then please reach out at the number that is given in the description box. Okay, so that's it from me. I'll see you soon in yet another video. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.